All right, so Jonah Goldberg's with me, editor-in-chief of The Dispatch, along with Basil Smykel, former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party. So, Jonah, here we are. Whatever moment we're living in, it's split. It's split right down the middle. So, in this moment, you've got Trump lashing out against everybody that loses. Mike Pence, Nancy Pelosi, that was a real doozy of one. People can go look it up. The U.S. women's soccer team. Found a way to slam them, too. And then I was struck by a line in The Atlantic today that reads, the former president's public behavior since special counsel Jack Smith indicted him last week suggests a man feeling cornered. His handling of the case suggests a man rattled in a way he seldom has been before. Now, Jonah, I don't know if you agree with that, but it is interesting that even if that is the case, the poll numbers simply do not show him being hurt at all.
Yeah, so I agree with it a little bit. I mean, if you look at that rally footage of him, he does look like he ate a big bowl of bad clams. I mean, he's sweating, he's flustered. It looks like he may be in gastrointestinal distress. But who knows? He's also a guy who always lives in the moment. Look, I think, picking up on stuff that Harry Enten was saying, one way to think about this is that both of these guys, both Biden and Trump, basically have poll numbers like very weak incumbent presidents. Now, Biden's the actual incumbent president, but about half of Democrats want somebody else. And Donald Trump lost the last election, but a bunch of Republicans wrongly think that he didn't. And he has close to about half of the Republican Party in his column as well. If you had normally, historically, go back to LBJ, an incumbent president without half the party is in a very weak position. Yeah. But we seem poised to do what we did in 2016, which is to nominate two candidates so unpopular that they have a chance to lose to the other one.
And there's a logical conundrum for you. So Basil, let me play for you some of what Trump said today about the DA, Fani Willis. And I mentioned this earlier, he called her a racist. This is in Fulton County, Georgia, where he is facing possibly another indictment. Here's what he said.
I probably have another one. They say there's a young woman, a young racist in Atlanta. She's a racist. And this is a person that wants to indict me. She's got a lot of problems, but she wants to indict me to try and run for some other office.
Basil, there, of course, was the insult young woman, a young racist, a racist.
Right. We've heard this before. Go back to 2016 in his primary election. He would often denigrate judges. And remember, he would do that with the nation's generals also. So he has a history of really going after institutions and the public servants that serve these institutions. So I do think to sort of the tease at the beginning of the segment that there is this sense that he's acting like a cornered animal. But the reality is that's sort of his permanent posture. And the challenge, therefore, is that he, in denigrating and in diminishing the institutions, it gins up his base. The concern that I have is that, and I work with a lot of students, there are a lot of students, a lot of young people, and Democrats really need them in 2024, that have similar concerns about this nation's institutions. They're concerned about the leaders on the right, but also on the left in terms of their mendacity. Are they telling us the truth? Are they real and going to support us? So while Donald Trump is doing this to motivate and mobilize his base, I think that the burden on Democrats is to make sure, and I think Joe Biden has done this as president, is to make sure that our core constituencies, young people, African Americans in particular, are aware that it's these institutions that have been a source of political, social, and economic power. You're certainly seeing the proxy of that in Ohio with this vote on an issue like reproductive rights that is a mobilizing factor for so many Democrats. So it's a play that Donald Trump always goes to, but Democrats, I believe, have an opportunity to push back.
All right, and I want to ask you more about that because we do, of course, have this special election in Ohio tonight. But Jonah, Ron DeSantis first, right? Obviously, he has failed thus far to challenge Trump successfully. although he's done better than anybody else in the national polls, okay? But Mark Caputo of The Messenger, obviously you know well, he reports that this was sort of interesting, that the new campaign manager, DeSantis' new campaign manager, refuses to call the shakeup a reboot. Instead, they're calling it a reload. I'm sorry, you made me laugh twice tonight, Jonah. A reboot instead of a reload. Okay, I am a believer that words matter, but sometimes it is not a sign of strength. What do you make of this?
Okay, I think he's smart to shake up the campaign again, whatever verb we're going to apply to it. I think that the problem is that DeSantis came out of the blocks with the wrong theory about the GOP electorate. He thought he basically came out with a theory that he was going to run to be the Ted Cruz of 2024 and come in a really strong second by not challenging Donald Trump, by not trying to peel away Donald Trump's voters, by letting Donald Trump define him for a very long period of time. And now he's starting from a real disadvantage because he's burned through a lot of money. And he has to sort of reinvent his theory of the electorate. So I think it's smart to sort of shake things up.
Yep.
But it's going to be hard.
And Basil, you mentioned the Ohio special election, and let me just ask you about this, because obviously it is a hugely consequential special election. It's on changes to the state's constitution, widely viewed, as you mentioned, as a proxy vote on abortion rights in the state. Look, Ohio is a crucial state. It used to be that, right, you couldn't get to the White House without it. It has become more and more a red state. What do you think about the outcome tonight? How significant could it be?
Well, I think it can be very significant, not just because of Ohio's historic place in general elections, but I think it is an additional opportunity for those who support reproductive rights, those who have been pushing back against the Supreme Court decision, and those that do care about the mobilization of Democrats or even independents in advance of a general election, that this matters significantly. Whether it's Ohio, we could be talking about Pennsylvania. Michigan has had other ballot measures. There's another in Mississippi. It's an opportunity to continue to mobilize the base, and and for that to that point. Any opportunity that you can to have sort of Democrats and independents going out there and voting in line with the Biden administration, that's always a plus.
All right. Thank you both very much. I appreciate it.